Faith Defend the Faith. My name is William Hemsworth, and this is brought to you by the Tucson Institute of Catholic Apologetics. We have a very special guest today. We have author and Catholic speaker Orlando Javien with us. Orlando, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing, William?
Oh, well, thank you. And you're coming from San Diego, right?
I'm in San Diego, California, yes.
Right. Everything's in San Diego. How survived the earthquake, obviously?
Yeah. I actually didn't feel any until yesterday. I felt one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Los Angeles area, so all my friends were like, "Did you feel it?" I'm like, "I live in Tucson now. Sorry." Like, but Orlando is a man of many hats. Bookkeeper, tax preparer, speaker, author. He's author of "God Made Me Pick Up Underwear: Finding Faith in Unusual Places," and "Stop Googling Yourself: Finding Inner Peace in a Noisy World." So again, thank you for taking time out just to spend some time with us and talk about your faith journey. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. So how did you first come to faith? I guess we'll just start there.
I was born and raised in the Catholic Church, but for most of my life up to probably adulthood, church for me was just something I did. It wasn't really something I put a lot of heart and soul into. But I would say my faith journey really began on August 14, 2007. I had been dealing with some marital problems, some financial issues, and I tried all the self-help books, listened to things to motivate me, to try to get me out of the funk I was in. And it was on that day that I decided to commit my life to Christ. I went to a men's group, witnessed something I had never seen before. It was men who actually prayed, and the power they demonstrated was something that I think I always longed for. And not only that, I was going through the issues that kind of garnered me to want to know God more than I had known most of my life. So I would say that's where it began. And for a long time, I wanted my wife to follow along with me, but not in the Catholic Church. It was more of the Protestant Church. That's where those men that I met with that were inspiring me, encouraging me to go. But my wife, she wanted to stay in the Catholic Church, and we started butting heads. I had all this knowledge that I was gaining from going to a Protestant church, and every time I tried to ask her questions and she couldn't refute them, or she didn't know the answers to them, I always assumed she was wrong. And so I thought bringing her to the Protestant church was the best thing for us. So
what so obviously you're Catholic now. What initiated that change?
Well, when I was going to the Protestant church, there was something I longed for there. I wanted to be a part of the community. I wanted to be planted, as I've always heard in the message, you need to be planted somewhere. But we weren't planted because I wanted to be there. My wife wanted to go to a Catholic church, and we kind of agreed to go to one weekend and one the other weekend, just so we would satisfy our different ways of learning about our faith. And it worked for a while, except for the fact that I wanted to be a part of the church more than just attending. And I kept praying, God, you say we're supposed to be planted. So my prayer was, make my wife Protestant. And the more and more I prayed that, God just started poking at me and said, answer that prayer for me. He says, why don't you become Catholic? Oh, and I really had a hard time with that response from God, because that's not what I prayed for. And I kept on bringing it to prayer again and again. And one day he just put it bluntly. He said, look, Orlando, there's a fire in you. I know, because I put it there. And I could use you at a Protestant church where there's a fire already. But if you'll humble yourself, I could use you at a Catholic church where I need a spark. And those words from God really helped me realize where I needed to be. And so I called my wife on the phone, and I told her, hey, honey, I think I want to make our St. Michael's, which is the church we were going to every other weekend. I wanted that to be our home from now on. And I wasn't on the other line, or sitting next to her, but I'm pretty sure her jaw dropped, because as I was praying for her to become Protestant, I think she was praying that I'd commit to the Catholic Church.
So was it just like silent on the other end, or
what was it again?
Reaction, or?
She was definitely very shocked. When she came home, we talked about it. I shared with her the message I got from God, and I told her if I was going to do it, I wanted to go all the way. Although I was raised in the Catholic Church, I hadn't gone through the sacraments, so I wanted to get, my first communion, get confirmed, and that following Easter, I was confirmed. It was April 23rd, 2011.
So at that point you went through RCIA, or did you do one-on-one with a priest, or how'd that work?
RCIA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your RCIA experience like?
It was beautiful. There, I got a chance to ask the questions. There was a lot of ideas that were taught that's wrong with the Catholic Church, and when I couldn't get those answers via online or from other people, I was able to ask, the priest. I was able to ask other laymen there that had the knowledge to help me with my misunderstandings of the church.
Now, is there anything in particular that just stuck out with you that you had questions on, and what was that aha moment like?
One of the ones that I really struggled was the idea of praying to the saints. In the Protestant church, we're taught not to pray, to people, but only to God. And, I really had a tough time with that, especially because we're taught in the Catholic Church to pray the Rosary. And it's not something I never really was able to grasp. But the response was really easy to understand. They shared with me that we're not praying to the saints or to Mary like they're gods, but we're looking to them as counsel, just like we would go to a friend who had the wisdom to enlighten us, somebody to be there for us, to pray for us, and particularly the saints, not that we're to admire them like they're godlike, but we're to look at them as ways that we can live our faith. They're to be examples for us to follow.
Right. I think sometimes there's a misconception when it comes to saints, like somehow they're taking the glory away from Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
When they do the opposite, they're telling us, no, look to Jesus, kind of look to the example that Jesus has worked in my life, and this is what he can do.
Exactly, yeah. That gave me a better understanding.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for sharing that. That was one of my struggles when I came in as well. I'm a convert myself, and that Mary and the saints was a big it was a stumbling block at first. I mean, now I totally get it. I understand.
Yeah.
So you get confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens after that? How do you get planted, if you will?
Immediately after I was confirmed, I was sought out by different groups. They were asking me if I would be a Eucharistic minister, if I would teach religious education. It's funny, right after you get confirmed, everyone wants to have you in their committee.
Yeah.
But the good thing is my wife was, because I want to do everything and anything with the church, but I have a level-headed wife who's able to tell me, hey, honey, you don't want to spread yourself out too much because you still have a ministry at home. So what I did was, and along with my wife, is look at the things that I had strengthened already and see where I could plant myself, not everywhere, but some places that didn't affect the family life as well. So I agreed to teach religious education because I loved so much talking about where I was, because so many times these kids are being taught through a book that they never want to grab hold of the faith. So I think because I was so away from the church, I'm able to kind of resonate with them and kind of explain to them the faith a little more than just reading it from a book. So,
Do you still teach religious education?
yes, so I teach 7th and 8th grade religious education.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was asked to teach that, but they decided to keep me in elementary, which is totally fine. So how long have you been teaching religious education?
Since 2011, so about 8 years. Yeah.
Great.
And I got a chance to teach my son, and I got to teach my daughter as well. My daughter just finished 7th and 8th grade with me.
Oh, that's a blessing.
Oh, definitely is. Yeah.
This
So,
past year, I taught second grade, and I taught my daughter for her first communion, so that was fun.
yeah.
So when teaching seventh and eighth graders, what are some practical things that we can do, um, just that as parents, to help teach the faith to that age group?
Um, I think one of the main things is to always remember where you were at that age. Um, if you, more than likely weren't clinging to the faith at early of an age, so to expect that from 7th and 8th graders really makes it difficult for you to teach. So what I like to do in every class is I always ask them, what does their faith look like in the last week? Have they read their Bible? Did they go to church? Did they go to confession? Did they pray? Just to get an idea of where they're at. Um, and eventually, as the class evolves, eventually they start doing these activities more. And what I like to teach them is not so much about how to study, but how to live out the faith. Whether it's opening up the door for a complete stranger, calling up somebody out of the blue just to tell them, hey, I was thinking about you. Um, I want them to demonstrate living like Jesus, because when they start living like Jesus, then they would eventually want to know about him and the Bible more. So it's more about how do we apply action steps versus just read it, regurgitate it, and see if it sticks.
Okay, so teaching them less about, well, you're still doing book knowledge, but you're doing the practical application,
Exactly.
which is good for all of us. I mean,
Yeah.
really. So,
And another thing I like to do is I always ask them for God moments. When they come into the classroom, I always ask them, hey, where did you see God? Most of the time, they look at me with blank stares like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I want them to look for God, because the more they find God in the simple situations, whether it's whether like the title of my book, picking up underwear, or putting away shopping carts, or just seeing it in the people around you. The more you're able to look for God and spot him in the most minute places, then you'll find him everywhere. Yeah.
it's a very important lesson that you just said, because I think sometimes we get so focused that we got to do the big things, when it's the small things that people notice more often.
Yeah, exactly.
So you teach religious education. Of course, you're a husband, father, which is our primary vocation as men. But you're also a Catholic speaker. So how'd you get involved with that?
You know what? When I first started my faith journey, God just started downloading a lot of stories into me, and that's where it came up with the two book titles. And God would just constantly download these messages to me, simple messages where I find God when I got stuck with a stapler in my thumb, when I put away a shopping cart, and I was able to see God, and He was able to turn those little moments into stories that I was able to share with other men, other Bible studies, and I found a passion that I wanted to share the message. And I've always loved motivational speakers. I would say for the past 25 years, I've been listening to the same Zig Ziglar audio over and over again. And just listening to him and other motivational speakers, it put this desire to motivate people. And because of the mixture of the motivation and the faith journey, I've been able to kind of push them together, and it's helped me deliver a message of faith and hope.
Right now, your book, well, one of your books, stop Googling yourself, finding inner peace in a noisy world. And I think the world desperately needs that today. We're so busy with everything that's going on. What are some things that our listeners can do to keep their eye on the prize, if you will, and eliminate distractions?
Um, for me, I've made it a practice to roll out of bed onto my knees and pray, and that way, because usually, typically, I'm a workaholic. So once I get out of bed, I already want to start working. So I've learned to just put the discipline to roll out of bed on my knees to thank God, and and I ask Him to search my heart, show me where I need to change, and give me the courage to change, because He'll tell you exactly what needs to be changed. We just need the courage to make those changes in our lives so that we could find a more fulfilling life with our families, and more peace with God, knowing that the direction that He's leading us is the right one. So if anything, it's putting little disciplines in place, taking the time to sit in silence with God, and taking the time to listen. So many times we pray, we give God our honey-do list, and we get up and take off and wonder why He didn't answer our prayers, not realizing that we never gave Him a chance to respond, because He does if you really take the time to listen.
Amen. So, do you have anything in the works right now as far as writing goes or speaking?
Um, well, I just did a retreat 2 weeks ago in Reedley, California, at St. Anthony of Padua, and they asked me to do something I'd never done before, which was give multiple talks. I've usually just given one, and that was it. But they asked me to do seven,
Wow.
and it was something I'd never done, but I accepted the challenge. And in the process of preparing for that retreat, I was able to find seven talks that I'd be able to put up, one following the other. I'm hoping to be able to utilize that at when I do get invited to other churches. Maybe not fully seven, because seven was a lot, but maybe maybe four or five, but probably a little more doable. That's for speaking wise. I just signed an exclusive contract with CatholicSpeakers.com for them to handle all of my speaking opportunities. So I'm hoping that'll open up some more doors.
Well, great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm actually on your page right now on CatholicSpeakers.com. So check it out, people.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I thank you for just taking some time out and talking about your faith journey. I know it'll resonate with a lot of people, and I love your work. I love your posts on LinkedIn. They're just so motivational. I love your YouTube channel. Where can the listeners and viewers, since this is going to go on YouTube as well, how can they learn more about your work?
I would say the best thing to do is either go to my website. It's orlandojavien.com. There you can view some of my blogs. There's links to my YouTube videos, or you can just go to YouTube and type Orlando Javien, and that'll show you all the videos that I've created, whether they're business related or faith related. And also, I do post a lot on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been one of my main avenues of putting creations out there.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I get a lot of value out of them. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Everyone, check out Orlando's work. You will not be disappointed. And Orlando, thank you for taking some time on a Saturday afternoon just to talk for a few minutes. Appreciate it.
I thank you, William, for the opportunity. Really, really fun.
Same here. Same here.